mistakes.
It's like,
You didn't like it?
literally, oh, that's the line. And I was like, can I just have a four? They're like, yeah, sure. So they like got it for me. And then I went back and I was like, can I just have two more?
Hello. How you doing? I actually have the hat.
Last week. It's just the when he turns, it's just a fair. I would have did. So did I. It's like the Phineas and Ferb head where you like never turn, so it's like. He literally didn't say anything. He just walked in and was like, hello, how are you guys doing today? And we're like, good. Are you open? Alexis. Yeah. I know. He said that for years. Waiting for this moment. You're gonna be able to teach me that on?
I cannot see anything. Like, I can see this far, and everything else is blurry.
So
So,
no.
so the problem is that if I have to write, I cannot get close enough to these things. So no, probably not. And if you cannot hear me, then also like.
Do you just have that at your house for just?
We bought this for my kid because he wanted one because COVID. So he just goes around town wearing this thing. Hi, everybody. Hello. Hello.
I have a question about Mondays.
Okay.
So we were looking at this triangle to find the perpendicular, which is this angle, this x right here. And we were using sine of 60 or cosine of 30, which makes sense because you just take this angle over this angle, right? You would just do x over 4 times 9.8 equals cosine 30.
This, no.
No, it's opposite,
That was,
right?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the actual, the
So 4 times 9.8. So now I'm confused on why we were doing this number times cosine 30. Because really, shouldn't it be?
Oh, x cosine over 30.
Yeah. I'm confused on why we were multiplying those two things together versus shouldn't it be? Yeah, I was writing down yours, but I was doing cosine in my head. Because you said you could either multiply by cosine. I'm confused on why it's not.
I want to see if I know. Yeah, very quickly.
This is too hard. I cannot see any.
Yeah, why wouldn't we do this number divided by cosine of 30 to get x? Because that's what we're trying to find. And multiply divided by that.
I hate read it again. So it's all you.
I was troubling since those. I already had 2 copies. I took a nap. I was going to take a nap, but I was in the I woke up.
Okay, so I'm gonna redraw this.
Okay.
Then you have this triangle. Then you have your axis.
So can you not cheer for me?
Okay. So this is your hypotenuse. Triangle
Or
This one.
run, or like bounce. So. Cheer.
It's parallel?
Yeah, this is the hypotenuse. Yeah.
Oh.
So this is gonna be 30. This is gonna be 60, and this guy over here is also gonna be 30.
So if I did cosine of 30, that's
You're just a counter.
So you actually, this is gonna be your 4 times 9.8.
And there's something wrong.
Gotcha.
Yeah?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, how's you guys doing?
Good.
Okay. Oh crap. Yeah, so the people in the morning didn't like it. So
I think it's a good math.
I thought it was hilarious.
I think the 8th either they really don't like the class or they're really, really tired. So there was nothing.
It's probably the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So, oh, what happened to that thing? Yeah, I have other masks. How we bring them from time to time. I have a microphone that you can just plug it in your clothes, and then you can amplify your voice. And I was trying to find it so I could put it inside, and then I could be able to talk. But oh yeah, oh yeah. Okay, I don't know if anyone on the chat saw the mask, but anyway. Okay, so questions so far. You guys haven't been there for a week, so I don't know if there's, well, some of you. I want to know if there's any questions that you have, anything that you want me to go through. Nope. Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that I want to go through is we're gonna start talking about torque and equilibrium and how does the center of gravity affects the equilibrium. And for this, I'm gonna ask you guys to do a little exercise. And the people in the chat, you guys also have to do it. So you need to open your cameras. And I need to see that you actually doing it. So go. Open your cameras. And everybody stand up. Oh yeah. Oh no, you can sit down. Yeah. Okay. So we know that the center of gravity for a person is somewhere around our navel, our belly button. Okay. So the location of the center of gravity with respect to your feet defines whether you are in a stable position or not. Whether you're sitting down or you're laying down or standing up, the position of that center of gravity defines your stability. Kayla, I don't see you. Brian, come on. And you guys also need to stand up. The guys in the chat. Yes, they're just rolling eyes. Like, really? So if you're standing up and you have your feet and they are the wide of your shoulders, that's a very stable position. Kayla, come on. She's just ignoring me. So this is a very, very stable position. You can be standing like this for a long time, and you can see it, you can feel that your body is not moving much. It's a very stable position. Now, if you put your feet together, you are narrowing the base of your feet or your body. You still, to keep that position stable, you need to put that belly button on top of your feet. If you move your body, and as you can imagine, as you move your body, your center of gravity is also moving. And if you move it too much, you're gonna lose equilibrium, and then you're gonna kind of keep, okay? But it's still kind of comfortable. Oh, Brian is doing it. Good for you, Brian. Keenan, are you doing it? Kayla? Kayla's like, no. I don't. Morgan. Okay. Now, if you stand on one toe, now you can do it. For me, it's hard, and I can feel my foot moving like this all the time. Some of you may also feel like that. Erin, are you an athlete? Yeah. What sport? Softball. So, dancers, cheerleaders, gymnastics, they, for them, this is really, really easy. Casey, I don't see you standing up. Are you not standing up? She's standing up. So again, this is kind of hard, and you can feel like your body is moving. You can see your feet kind of try to equilibrate your body. And what you're doing basically is you put your center of gravity. You're moving it on top of your foot. Okay, that's basically what you do. Yeah, no? Come on, one toe. Now, if you stand up on your tippy toes. Yep. Now you're making that base really, really small. And it's really, really hard. And nobody on the chat is doing it. Sarah? Sarah? She just. So you are in the tippy toes. Now the base is very, very small. And it's really, really hard to do it. And you need to move your body. And you see that you can move your legs, you move your arms. And all that you're trying to do is to put that center of gravity on top of your toe. And that very narrow base. If you imagine, thank you, that's it. Thank you guys, Emma, Kayla, you're gonna have to do it next time that you're in the classroom. You too, Christopher. If you imagine a ballet dancer, and when they are walking and standing, and they are leaning on the tip of the toes, so you can imagine how much control they need to have in order to keep that position for a long time. The dancers, gymnastics, cheerleaders, usually they have a ridiculous amount of balance just because of the sport. Now, I'm gonna show you a couple of videos. Come on. There you go. Oh, great. Yep. A lot of the control of dancers, you activate your core muscles a lot just to keep those positions. Okay. Okay, give me a minute. I'm trying to make the screen work. We have blue screen. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to show you a video. Okay. So when you try to look at a human body in motion, one of the things that you try to do, or one of the things that you could do, is to look at the center of gravity and look at those positions that the person is in equilibrium. The way you do it is that you divide the body in different segments. So one segment is going to be the head, the other segment is going to be your arm, your forearm. You have another one on your torso, and you have your legs. And for each one of those segments, you're going to have a center of gravity. And you're going to use those centers of gravity to calculate the whole center of gravity of the body. So if that person moves the legs, the center of gravity changes. If that person moves the head, the center of gravity moves a little bit more. Obviously, the mass on the legs is much bigger than the mass of the head. So the changes in the center of gravity because of the legs is more, it's gonna be bigger than the changes caused by motion of the head. So okay, so in this case, even though this guy is doing some crazy stuff, you can do that, Mary?
No. I can stand on my hands, but I can't do all the extra stuff.
I cannot even stand on my head. So the base for this guy right now are his hands. So whatever the center of gravity is, it has to be above the hands. If the center of gravity moves away from that, it's gonna fall, okay? Now, it's not so easy to see here. Come on. So I'm gonna show you a different video. And there are different ways that you can try to do this. But a very common one is that you have the person that's doing the activity, then you can put markers on that person. You can follow the main joints. Another one, the one that this one is doing is you videotape the person, you measure the mass and try to estimate the mass of the different parts of the human body. And then you create this kind of uh, how you call it, like stick figurine. So these are the hands. These stars. These are the center of mass of the forearm, the arm, the center of mass of the head, of the torso, and of the legs. And then here on the hands, this is the extension of your base, and these dotted lines is basically that width at which you are free to move. So what we're gonna see is that this guy's gonna repeat that same motion that he did, and you're gonna see how the center of mass for each one of the segments can move in and out of the base, but this big one, that's the center of mass of the body, that one's always gonna be within these two segment lines, okay? Hey, come on. Oh, there he is. Okay, so one thing that I want you to notice is how by moving the legs forward, the center of gravity is moving forward. So instead of being close to the back, now it's almost close to the stomach or in the front of the stomach. And as you will see the other kind of motions, you will see how the center of gravity moves forward and backwards, and how it's also being moved along that torso. So it's not fixed, it can move at different positions. But it's always going to be between those two dotted lines. Now, in this case, we see the center of gravity kind of superimposed to the elbow, but it's not really on the elbow. It's outside the body. That's by this kind of inverted V position that is causing this center of mass being outside the object, outside the person. Cool. That's pretty cool. Come on. A mask and a video? Come on. It's like the best day to be in class. The guys from Friday, they're not gonna get a mask. I'll tell you that. Sorry, guys. Okay, so what we're gonna try to do for the next couple of weeks and for the rest of chapter 8 and so is we're gonna try to look at the conditions of equilibrium. Again, we're gonna be talking about again equilibrium. We're gonna look at the conditions for stability, and we're gonna look at the effects of torques at different joints. Okay, and we're gonna look at what does it take in terms of muscle activation to have an isometric position when you're holding a load or when you're holding a weight. Okay, cool. I can see you excited about what we're gonna be talking about. Okay, so and this is out of focus. Great. Did out of focus. Okay. There you go. Okay. So we are gonna specifically be talking about static equilibrium. So we're gonna be working on the assumption that whatever we're analyzing is not gonna be moving. Now, so far, the way we talk about equilibrium is that we're gonna say that the sum of forces is gonna be equal to 0. That's our condition for equilibrium. Because forces can be decomposed in X and Y components, we're gonna have that, well, we have the forces in X equals to 0, and we're gonna have the forces in Y equals to 0. Okay, those are the two equilibrium conditions that we have worked so far. And that's when we come up with the free body diagrams and so on. Now, we need to first assume that we are working with an extended object. And because of that, it can rotate. So we need to have a third condition to prevent an object from rotating. And that basically is going to be that the sum of the torques has to be equal to 0. So whatever torque you have on your object, to guarantee that it's not rotating, you have to have that the sum of torques are equal to 0. So this is going to be for prevent displacement. And this one is to prevent rotations. Okay, so we're gonna do a couple examples, and the examples that we're gonna be seeing at first are gonna be with pieces of board and boxes and planks and stuff like that. And then we're gonna start introducing the femur and the shoulder and more complex structures. Okay, so just bear with me at the beginning, and once we explain exactly how solve these kind of problems, that we can introduce more complex systems. Okay, so the class example, we're gonna have a board, a piece of wood, and I'm gonna assume that this has a length of 3 meters. We're gonna have 3 meters, and it's gonna have a mass of 10 kilograms. Okay, and I'm gonna put this piece of wood on two workhorses. So I'm gonna have one horse here and another one over here. And the spacing between these two is gonna be 2 meters. Okay, now first, find out where is the center of gravity of that piece of wood. Where will it be? But can you tell exactly where? Just looking at the board, where will it be the center of gravity? To the left of the second, in the middle, closer to the middle. Erin? 1.5 meters. So remember, when you have simple geometric figures, like squares, triangles, rectangles, the center of gravity is always going to be at the geometric center. So if this is 3 meters, it's going to be at 1.5 meters. Okay? So yes, it's going to be to the left, more closest to one to the other, but you can actually tell where exactly it's going to be. So this is going to be here at 1.5 meters. Yeah, everybody can see that? Eleanor? I remember your name. Alexis? Does it make sense? Okay. So you can see just because the center of gravity of this board is between these two supports, this is going to be stable. It's not going to rotate. Okay. So we know that this condition, this delta tau, sorry, this sum of tau, this sum of torques is going to be equal to 0. We can see that because this is not going to rotate. Okay. Now, how many forces do we have? Okay, Helen?
There's weight, and there's the normal force, and I think that's it.
Where's the normal force?
Because it's touching the surface. Oh, there's two normal forces.
There's two normal forces. So we're going to have this weight pulling down. And we're going to have a normal force here. And another force, normal force here. Okay. Now, do the free body diagram really quick. Okay. You got it? So your free body diagram, you have a force of the weight pulling down, and you have two normal forces here. You have normal force 1 and you have normal force 2. It's just gonna look like that. There's no components in X, all of them are in Y. And if you try to draw the equilibrium equation, you're gonna have that the normal force 1 plus the normal force 2 minus the weight is gonna be equals to 0. Now you're gonna have two unknowns. We don't know normal force 1, we don't know normal force 2. We know the weight. So we cannot solve this equation. We have two unknowns, one equation. There's no way we can solve it. Okay. So if I want to solve for this normal force 1 and I want to know where is the normal force 2, I want to know how much weight are they supporting each one of them. I cannot do it just with the free body diagram, at least not like this. I need to do an extended free body diagram, and I need to work with and you need to work with torques to be able to solve it. So the extended free body diagram, you're gonna pick a point of origin, and the point of origin, for this case, I'm gonna put it here on the position of the first workhorse. I'm not gonna explain why I'm picking up there. So it's gonna be here. So it's gonna be, that's gonna be my origin. Okay. And then I'm going to identify the forces, but also I'm going to identify the position of those forces. So I'm going to have my force number one, normal force one. I'm going to have the weight. And this is going to be 2 meters. And then I'm going to have, no, sorry, this is 1.5 meters. And this is going to be 2 meters. And this is force number two. Okay, now what I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to find the equilibrium or the rotational equilibrium. I'm gonna try to find out and to make sure that there's no torque in this system. So I'm gonna add all the possible torques. And you can assume that for every force that you have, you're gonna have a torque. So force number one is gonna create a torque. The weight is gonna create a torque. And the normal force two are gonna create a torque. So I'm gonna write down as torque one plus torque two plus the torque of the weight. I want all of those to have a net torque of 0. Okay. Okay. Kennedy. I'm not gonna ask you again. Or maybe I'm gonna keep you in suspense. The next to Erin. Hayden. Hayden.
Yeah.
With an H.
Yeah.
Okay, Hayden. What do I need to calculate torque? What elements do I need to calculate torque? I need a weight, or I need a force. Okay. Okay. We need a perpendicular component of force. Okay, what else? Behind Rihanna?
How many a radius?
We need a distance. We need the distance from where to where.
Like, from the first normal force to center of gravity.
So we need a distance, a radius, but that radius, that distance is going to be from your pivot point to your force. Okay. So the way we calculate torque is radius or distance times a perpendicular force. And you have to remember this radius, this distance is the distance between the pivot point and the force. Whatever force you are working. So the distance between the pivot point and the weight, the pivot point and normal force number one and normal force number two. Okay. Now, in many cases, the pivot point is obvious. Like the object is going to rotate and you can tell where that pivot point is. So in the case of your shoulder, in case of your elbow, you can figure out where that pivot point is. If you're trying to work with a door, well, you know that the hinges are going to be your pivot point. But in this case, in this example over here, the pivot point is not that obvious. So I can pick any pivot point. I can pick a pivot point that is going to be outside. That's going to be just a reference point. So I can pick the point here, even though it physically is not going to rotate along that point. But because the pivot point in this case, I'm using it as a reference, I can pick any reference that I want. I can pick a pivot point over here, or I can pick it here, or I can pick it on the other side. It doesn't matter. There are choices that are better than others. So if you have the freedom to pick the pivot point, put the pivot point in one of the forces that you don't know. So in this case, we can pick the pivot point to be either at the location of force number 1 or at the location of force number 2. Why do I do that? Because when I do that, like in this case, I put my position at force number 1, then what is the distance between my pivot point and force number 1? 0. So the torque of this force is 0. So now my equation of torque gets simplified a little bit. And instead of having 2 unknowns, I only have 1. So now I'm going to have torque number 2 is the torque caused by force number 2 for the normal force. This is going to be positive. So I'm going to have normal force number 2 times the radius, which is going to be 2 meters. And the weight is going to create a negative torque. So I'm going to have my force, which is the force of gravity, times the distance, that is 1.5. And I know that these have to be equal to 0. It doesn't matter what value you end up with normal force 1. I'm not saying that that normal force has a value of 0. It can be any value, it can be huge. But because I'm putting my pivot point there, it doesn't create any torque. And it's just because this R is 0. So it doesn't matter what value I have on the force, because R is 0, it's always going to be 0. So from here, I can find normal force number 2. So I'm going to have and then the normal force is going to be 10 kilograms times 9.8 times 1.5 meters over 2 meters. Okay. And I end up with 73.5 newtons. Okay, so that's the value of N2. Now, if I want to find out what is the magnitude of the first normal force, I just go back to this equation that I obtained from my free body diagram, for the normal free body diagram. So this will be Fn1 plus Fn2 minus mg equals 0. Now I'm going to solve for that normal force. This will be 10 times 9.8 minus 73.5. That's going to give me 25 newtons. Oh, sorry. Yes, Christopher. You're welcome. Christopher, tell me that. Okay, yeah.
So just to clarify, you're not including the sign of 91, right?
Correct. Yeah. There's a sine of 5, but in this case, 5 is 90 degrees, so it's gonna be 1. Yes.
Okay, so for the normal force of 2, the second normal force, why is it not negative? Because when you rearrange the equation, don't you have to, well, when you subtract it all, that side doesn't?
So no. So I'm gonna. So you have this equation, and you have this negative torque on the weight. And then if you add this on both sides of the equations, you're going to end up with 2Fn plus mg15. So it's going to be net positive. Okay? And we're going to be talking about what it means to have a negative normal force. And we'll do that later, but there's no negative normal forces. All normal forces have to be bigger than 0. Okay? Questions so far? Okay. So now I want you guys to do on the chat, anyone? Any questions? Okay. So I'm gonna, this is a springboard. You are some divers. So there's a springboard, which is basically the same thing that we had before. You have a long board. I'm gonna say that this has a mass of 30 kilograms. So M1 is gonna be 30 kilograms. You're gonna have 2 supports again, one on the edge, and I'm gonna assume that this one you actually bolted. Okay, and the other one, this is just for support. And on one edge, you're gonna have the diver, and I'm gonna assume that this. Anyone from here swimming divers? No. Okay. No. Alexander, are you swimmer or a diver? She knows that. She said that she's a diver. I'm gonna make a drawing of her. So she's gonna see. Here we're gonna have another person, and this person I'm gonna assume that has for a few weeks. We're gonna have a person that's gonna have a mass of 60 kilograms. The length of the springboard, I'm gonna say that is 3.5 meters, and the distance between supports, I'm gonna say that is 2 meters. Okay, and again, what I want to find out is what are the forces. I want to know what is the force here at the bolt and this force. I want to know what's F1 and this normal force 2. It's pretty much the same problem that we just did. We're just adding an extra mass. So remember, for each force that you have, you need to have a torque for that mass. Okay? Kennedy?
I get why we have, like, why it's like kind of like the same problem we just did. But how would you like add the second mass? I don't know how to add the second mass.
So first of all, we have identified 2 forces here. So we are missing 2 more forces. One is the weight of the board. That you find that exactly the same way that we did the other one, and then you have the mass of this person, which is going to have a force because of gravity, and you can assume that this force is going to be right where that person is, and this will be the force of gravity. I mean, the weight caused by 2. The mass of the board again is going to be at the geometric center. So this will be the weight of your board. And if this board is 3.5, then this distance is going to be 1.75. Yeah. Aaron, make sense? Behind Aaron, your name? Lexi. Lexi, make sense? Okay, so try to find out those two normal forces. So, two, one for each group. We got it. No, I understand, but just write down and one and then two, three, same with the total. Okay, you can have it. Okay, I won't take it. I won't.
Sorry, I'm trying to remember how to write it.
I won't look. I won't look. Yes?
Question. So I have the, so if I were to do with this, say, this versus would be four. And then so that you two. I'm doing this one. So then if I do that as two, what max is two? Thank you.
No,
Do you get
so,
what I'm asking?
so this will be first sure, right?
Yeah.
So you just write it account because you have no idea about the number.
So it'll be two and then.
Thanks to this. Okay, so now.
Oh, and then I'll do it for the.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Will you do this?
No.
Oh. Okay, so really quick, I'm just gonna draw the AAA diagram in this case. So I'm gonna have normal force one, weight one, normal force two, normal force two, and this maybe 3.5, 1.75, and this is gonna be two. have your four forces, and you're gonna have four torques. You're gonna have a torque created by the first normal force, a torque by the second normal force, a torque by the weight of the board, and then the torque caused by the weight of the person. Now, I'm placing my frame of reference, or placing my pivot point at the location of the first normal force. So that will make this torque go to zero. So I end up just with three equations. So for the normal force, this is rotating counterclockwise, so it's going to be a positive torque. These two forces, the weights, are rotating clockwise, so they're going to have a negative torque. So this is going to be negative, negative, and this is going to be a positive torque. So I'm going to have 2 times normal force minus m1g minus 1.75 m1g minus 3.5 m2g equals 0. Okay, and from there I can solve for the normal force. Well, I'm gonna do it by steps. It's gonna be and m2 is 60. M1 is 30. And from there, we can find normal force number 2. Oops. And I have a normal force of 1,286, 6.25 newtons. Yep, you guys got that? Yep. Once you have normal force 2, you can calculate the normal force 1. To calculate the normal force, you know that all the forces have to be equal to 0. So you will have this. So you have 90. Yep. You got negative? Yes. So we are calculating the torque. So the torque created by this force, the torque created by this force is the distance times the force. So it's going to be 2 meters times the value of that force. Okay, so why do we have this negative force, this 400 newtons? If you look at the original drawing, and we will do this, but we can calculate where's the location of the center of gravity of these two guys. But you can imagine that this this whole object is trying to rotate like this. And the bolt in here is the one that is prevented. We didn't have that bolt, the whole board will flipping over. It will be start rotating clockwise. So this bolt is actually pulling down the board, the springboard. That's where we have that negative force. Yep. If I were to calculate the center of gravity of the board and the person, I will have x1 and 1 plus x2 and 2. So it will be 1.75 times 30. This is the location of the center of gravity of the springboard. This is the mass of the springboard. Plus 3.5 and 60 over 30 minus 60. And with 2.92 meters. Yeah. So if you see the center of gravity of the object, of the person and the springboard together, it's going to be somewhere around here. So it's outside the base. So if we didn't have this bolt, it will tilt over. Yep. Make sense? Yes. Okay. Any questions? No? Emma? You're very quiet on the back. You good? Alexis? Alexis? You good? You're Alexis, right? Alejandra? Alexandra? Alexis. Alexis, are you okay? Okay. Any questions? Haley? You okay?
Yeah.
You always ask me questions.
I know, I understood.
No. Okay, so we're gonna stop here and we're going to continue on Friday. Have a good day and see you Friday.
Where's COVID testing today done? You said that you got COVID tested. Where is it?
In the law in front of the chapel.
Oh, okay.
There's like a white tent.
Okay,
It's
gotcha.
the 410 Senator. I just got mine done
Oh,
at
okay.
11, so.
Okay, perfect. I haven't been like up at north,
Yeah.
so perfect. Okay, thank you.
The lady on the far left in tent number 1, fantastic. It was in, out, easy.
Okay.
Never.
I have a question about the exam next week. So are we supposed to start like right at noon?
For your exam?
Yeah.
For the midterm that's gonna be next week?
Yeah.
No, the way it's gonna work is that you're gonna have a window
Okay.
of 48 hours.
Oh, okay.
And during those 48 hours, you can start your exam whatever you want. But once you start your exam,
Yeah.
it's gonna be like a 2 hour and a half, 3 hours
Okay.
for you